Yes. I don't want video resources. You'd think it would figure out by now. This is why I don't worry about AI taking over the world, because it can't figure out from my choices. I don't want to add a video input at this time.
Right.
If you can't figure that out after how many of these recordings, I got no fear.
Yeah, we're at what, 6 or 7 now?
I think this makes episode 7. So
yeah.
I did discover what happened to the Spotify. I never confirmed it was our account. So I just assumed the account went nowhere. And so I fixed it. I posted it. Anyone who goes and listens to those will be very confused because they're going to be out of order and they're not going to make any sense whatsoever. But I mean, it is what it is from this point forward. Everything's going to be in the order it should be. So,
yeah.
But welcome to Conflict of Leadership Coffee Table Edition. I'm Tim.
Jeremiah.
And we talk about anything and everything to apply to the fire service, things we've experienced, our experience, or lack thereof, and everything in between. So tonight we're going to be doing a little rush thing because my partner in crime here, he's got a baseball game to go to. Are they going to win this year or this tonight or no?
I hope they win tonight.
So the Copeland Guardians, as they're now called, don't give me that look. Every team goes through a rename.
Listen, it will always be the Indians and it will always be the Jake.
I get it. I get it. Every team goes through rebranding at some point. I mean, look, the Akron Arrows are called the Rubber Ducks now. So it's Rubber City, dude. It's Rubber City.
I know.
So
on the rubber arrows.
The Rubber Arrows?
Yeah.
Oh my God. The problem is that, what was it, 2016, 2017, when the Indians went to the playoffs, we cannot call them the Indians for a 22-game win streak. It just doesn't sound the same saying the Guardians.
It doesn't.
Like when Guardians, it's like you're Hermione trying to cast a spell.
Oh my God, yes. That's perfect. Wow.
Oh boy. So before we get too far off track here, because we're on just a smidge of a time crunch here, we're going to jump right in tonight because tonight we're talking about recruitment and retention.
And is money the problem?
Is money the problem? Yeah. That's talk about going in deep at first. Like that's one thing in the fire service everyone wants to talk about is we want more money.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be paid more. We want more per hour. We want more overtime and whatnot. But then what's funny is whenever you have guys who leave a department or leave an organization, the money they say, I'm not being paid enough, but that's only one in a whole laundry list of things that they didn't like.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than just money.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just hours.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a laundry list of things, man.
Yeah. No, citing things that I've heard is either like leadership doesn't pay attention to the problems or things that are happening down on the blue shirt level, or equipment doesn't get repaired, or doesn't get taken care of, or stations are dilapidated or just falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, there's a department in our area up north that fits that criteria right there.
Mm-hmm.
Equipment's falling apart. Their apparatus is literally breaking down and falling apart on the way to calls. They don't have enough people. They don't pay well. I don't know how that city survives half the time, really.
I mean, it's interesting because there's another department or area that's going through a similar deal. And it's like, as long as you have somebody who will take the job, which is going to become a problem here very quickly because we're just not turning off new firefighter paramedics the way we used to be.
Yeah.
But as long as somebody will take the job at that price point, I mean, it's easy to kind of kick that can down the road and not think about it.
Yeah.
Because you just go and put another warm body in the seat and move on with life.
Exactly. And that's not the solution all the time either. He said kicking the can down the road, it's been, those seats been filled or seats have been filled. We don't have to worry about it anymore. But in the long run, you still do, because they can get tired of it. And they're like, we're done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly if this is true, but in the military, at least for the Army, believe it's on average. Now, these are like average 2013, what I heard hearsay. So take this with a grain of salt. It's a lot of money. At the end of the day, it's a lot of money. But $300,000 for a new recruit to go through MEPS, through recruitment, basic training, AIT, before they even hit the first duty station in the Army. 300,000 has already been invested into you for gear, training, medical, food, lodging, travel, you name
Wow.
it.
I didn't realize it was that
Yeah,
much.
it's a stupidly high amount. And when you look at, first of all, the pay part for a new recruit, you're talking $18,000 to $20,000. It's probably a little bit more now, but $18,000 to $20,000 a year for a buck private E1 fuzzy. That is a tiny amount of the total of what's being paid into it. Now you're going to try to tell me that to lose that private and to lose them and then get out of the military after 4 years or whatever, or get injured, decide and basically train, hey, this isn't what I want to be chaptered out. You're going to try to tell me that that's a better investment than doing things to keep the qualified people you have in.
Right.
It's the same thing in the fire service too, is that, I don't know how much it costs for on average in Ohio for a new recruit to go through whatever department, but I know it's not cheap. And you're gonna tell me that you'd rather pay out that over and over and over again for people you have to retrain versus ones you're gonna keep?
Yeah, and you got to look at it as like, okay, does this department have their own in-house fire academy too, or do they have to send them out and pay that place? It goes hand in hand. It's the same thing.
Well, even if they have their own in-house, I mean, you got to pay all those instructors whatever wage that you got to pay them, and then those guys got to go on probation and they're gonna go on orientation period. So a lot of departments it might only be a couple weeks, but a lot of departments have anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks where when you're on orientation, you're on 40-hour days too. So that's, so now you have those instructors who would normally be on a shift cycle who are now on 40-hour work weeks in addition to everything else that they're doing. That's taxing quick monetarily.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a lot of hours too. And I know I'm guilty of it. Working, burn both ends of the candle.
Yeah.
I mean, in the same concept, even at private EMS, man, retention, especially private EMS, can be terrible. And a lot of it starts with management too.
Yeah. But I've seen that too, where I remember when I worked, the day cars, in my opinion, day cars should get their stuff kicked in. If you're there from, say, 7A to 3P, so 8 hours, you should be the busiest car, regardless of whether you're a paramedic unit or basic unit, because you are the one who gets refreshed every single night when you go home. Versus the 24-hour car, who, they should get only the most what do you want to say? I don't want to say tragic. That's the wrong word. The highest
high acuity.
Yeah, high acuity calls, the ones that are like true emergent transports but come in infrequently. That's what they should be reserved for, because if they're there for 24 hours, you need them to rest.
Correct.
What I've seen in management side is that gets flipped, where either it's based on who they have on the car, or it's based on what their like status is within the company, and then they sit there if they're an 8-hour car, while a 24-hour car is get their dicks kicked in all day long. And the 8-hour car goes home with having run one call locally, and the 24-hour car goes home at the end of their shift running like 7, with like 4 of them to Cincinnati or 4 of them to Columbus.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like in place I work at, it's not that bad like it used to be, but it was bad. When we had the 24-hour car in the entire company, they would run. And these day cars, they would just like do maybe 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, these guys need to sleep too. They're on 24 hours.
And I realized at some point, it's a business, especially private ambulance. You're in it for money. That's not
Absolutely.
You're not public entity, but at the same time too, it's whenever your employees get burned out and they're tired and they're exhausted and they're pissed off, and then you kind of look and play the stupid card like, oh, I don't understand why you're so upset. Well, maybe it has to do with the management is why you can't keep your metrics.
Exactly. And that's not just even in fire business, it's everywhere too. A lot of these companies are having retention problems, trying to keep employees. Like, you're mandated tomorrow, your day off. Nope, sorry, you got to come in for 8 or 10, 12 hour shift, like for the next 6 weeks. Like, that's a lot.
I found this interesting. So when COVID, the first lockdown started happening, the first quarantines, I was looking at like how the spread was going based on people's need to work. And what was found is people were not taking off work when they were sick.
Hmm.
Like people would go to work completely sick, miserable, contagious with whatever it was. And the reason being is that's because most people had to choose. I either stay at home, lose my job, or I go into work sick and hope I don't get anyone else sick at
Yeah,
the same time and keep my job. And
exactly.
it was crazy because we couldn't figure out why are people coming in sick? Why don't people care? Because we create a system where people don't have sick time. They get harangued and get harassed whenever they call off sick. And I
Yeah,
realize people abuse that, but
exactly.
then it's like there's no benefit to
No,
doing
there's
it.
not. And they also have to choose, do I go to work sick, take the risk to get someone else sick,
Mhm.
or do I risk, taking have to take a week off and then might fall behind on bills now?
Yeah.
You know, Nobody likes that at all.
No. No, well, it's crazy because like when you're talking about that, that's more now. That's what's driving people
Hmm.
to stay at a company is what does my sick time look like? What does my personal time look like? How many days off do I get?
Yeah,
You know? And a certain generation will look at us like, oh, you just don't want work. It's like, no, 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 no. I want work to not be my life.
exactly. And a lot of these companies, they just don't care.
Hmm.
They care about the money. They care
Yeah,
about the profit. It's all it is. They
yeah.
don't care about their employees. As long as their employees are making their money for
Mm.
them, then what's the problem? Is what they how they see it. And then that's not every company though.
No, no. It's interesting though because you say, well, what's the problem? There is no problem. Well, whenever you have to reteach employees how to do things, whenever you have to like you lose all of your experience in the course like we did with COVID, where a lot of older guys in the fire service said, "Yep, hey, time card, chunk, I'm done." You don't replace 30 years of experience just like that.
No, no, that's not an overnight deal. That is a multi-decade step right
Mm.
there.
Hmm. It's funny. So when I was my first duty station in the army, the Patrick Quartermaster Company, and when I got there, we had a lot of guys who were now they're only E4 specialists because of the way the military was at the time, but they were like your what we call career E4 specialists. So
Mhm.
they had been there for 12, 14 years, 16 years plus, and but they knew how to do everything, everything, but they never taught anyone else how to do stuff. If you wanted to learn how to operate equipment, drive vehicles, or how processes were supposed to happen, you had to actually ask to do it. Well, one day we we were being harassed. Ah, but one day we, you come into drill, you come into work, and you're like, "Oh, hey, where's Best Electric? Oh, he's gone. He ETS. He's done. In time of service. Okay, well, where's Billick? Oh, he's gone too. What? It's like all of a sudden you look, you realize first of all you're one of the most senior people at only 4 or 5 years
Yeah,
in the military, and you realize that you're only the only person left who actually knows how to operate 2/3 of the equipment.
yeah.
All of a sudden that becomes a big problem real
Hmm.
quick.
And that's a lot of pressure on a one person if it's
Hmm.
just one person too,
Yeah.
because now they're looking to that person.
Hmm. Well, and
You
that
know,
person doesn't have the authority, doesn't have the rank to like sign off on people being qualified, being certified and stuff. And there's, what do you do now? So now you're like, you didn't care about your retention. You didn't care about like what was happening on the inside there.
hmm
And now it's created a huge problem. It's created a huge issue.
yeah. Like my full time job, they take these brand new people
Hmm.
and they're trying to replace them with people that's been there, 15, 20 years and expect them to have the same level of experience and knowledge
Yeah.
of the equipment, of the job. I'm like,
Hmm.
it doesn't happen like that. It, it takes time. Like you can't, yeah, they'll learn it, but they're not going to learn it overnight.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I first started doing this and I was like, this is a lot of information, you know,
Mhm.
and looking back at it, it was, but I've soaked up majority of it. Some of the stuff I'm like, huh? But it it just takes time.
Yeah.
You can't expect that person to be Johnny on the spot like the last person or last two people were, and be able to do what they were able to do.
Well, at the end of the day, you're never going to get 10 years of experience in 10 weeks
No,
of any orientation. I don't care what you put into it, how fast or how in depth you go. You will not get that 10-year veteran out
no,
new orientee. It's just
no,
not going to happen.
no. That's wishful thinking,
Yes.
and that's all it is. It's wishful.
Yeah. No, sometimes I ask myself, like, so what can we do for like the recruitment retention side? Because
Yeah.
the recruitment side, honestly, I don't think we do too bad of a job. I think the problem we run into is when the reality hits the recruitment side. That's where, because we were talking about this at work the other week of how, like, when kids come out of the fire academy, they come out of college there, and they've got these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like,
Hmm.
huge streams of everything you can do in fire service. Firefighter, paramedic, trot team. You can do water rescue, dive teams, hazmat. You got all these special things, cool things you can
Yeah.
do, and then they get hit with reality their first day in the firehouse, where they're told to sit down, shut up. This is your first day. You
Yeah.
are to be a sponge and listen, not share all of your dreams and aspirations and ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we fail. But
Right. And yeah, you need to sit back and listen and soak it all up. But you also got to teach them too.
mhm,
But they also have to show initiative.
yes,
And that's the big thing I see in places. These new people, they're here. They just want to sit down and do nothing.
mhm.
They don't show initiative enough, and that's a huge problem.
Well, it's funny you bring it up. So I watched a short. I shared this with my wife today. I watched a short. It was an interview of, I think it's either the Greatest Generation or Silent Generation. So roughly 1900, 1950s,
Hmm.
somewhere there. And they were talking about why the following generations don't seem to have an appreciation for value versus work ethic and work effort. And what they said is that post World War II, when people, because the United States is coming out of depression, now Second World War, lots of poverty and so on and so forth, and Americans went back to work, that generation saw the correlation between I work harder and I move up in the world.
Hmm.
If I work harder and get promoted, I can buy a nicer house, nicer car, better close to my family,
Yep.
feeling whatever it might be. And what they described it as is that the next generation who came up, they didn't see that causation. All they saw was things get better. They didn't know that they didn't like really put together mom and dad go to work and the harder mom and dad work, because how many of us actually know what our parents did growing up as a job and
Hmm.
how hard they worked or didn't work? We never put that together. And so when it came around to the 60s and 70s, that's why when, with a lot of the protesting and whatnot, they ascribed that they didn't see the causation, so they didn't see the value. They just expected the world to be handed to them because the world had always been handed to them like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And I will say the newer generation, we're right back to that again.
Hmm.
They're expecting everything to be handed to
Yeah.
them, and that's not how life
No.
works. It's not like you and I. We've worked hard for everything we've had.
Hmm.
Like I will say, I know people that was born with silver spoons in their mouths,
Yeah.
and they expect everything to be handed to them. It's like that's not how that works, man. This is reality now.
Yeah. Well, and I feel bad for those kids sometimes because they go through school again being told you can do anything. And I'm
Hmm.
not against
Yeah.
dreams and whatnot. Have a dream to go do crazy stuff, awesome stuff, because you might do it. But we're never fed the reality of, oh, hey, by the way, your first 4 or 5 years of your adult life, you're gonna grind. Your second about 4 to 6 years, you're really gonna grind because because you're gonna be out on your own,
Hmm.
and then you'll finally get some traction and start moving. But that's not gonna really happen to your late 20s, maybe early
Yeah.
30s. But we don't teach that. We just teach that, like, as soon as you get out of school, you'll have a job and everything will be easy from that point forward.
Yeah. I mean, and depending on what kind of job you take too,
Mhm.
it can be very easy.
Mhm.
I mean, there's some kids coming out of college, jobs making six figures right off the bat.
Yeah,
That's insane.
it is. But then also too, it's you also don't see the background work and what it took for
Yeah.
them to get in those positions.
A lot of work.
Whether it was internships at
Hmm.
different companies, whether they had to they actually had to like watch their P's and Q's in their school. If they stepped out once, they got kicked out of the
Yep.
program. Like there's, I mean, so it's not that it was necessarily handed to them, but that, they took a different track.
Yeah.
But of course, then from the outside, it does look like, oh, well, they just stepped out of the school and went to work for a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, and then he said it's networking, networking, and a lot of schoolwork. I know a friend that I worked with at my full-time job. He was like that. He quit because he got a better paying job.
Yeah,
finished his degree, and he's like, I'm out, done. I already got a job. Like, good for you though. You've worked your tail off. You've earned this. That's the thing.
Well, I think that's honestly you just hit on one of the biggest things when it comes to recruitment, especially in partial retention, but recruitment is getting your name out there and letting people know what you're willing to provide if they put in the time.
Absolutely. And that comes with work ethic.
Yeah.
Big time. I'd rather have someone that's not necessarily staying late, but I want you to go home, but you're doing the job on time, correctly, efficiently, than someone that's going to drag and complain.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get your name around. Like, hey, this dude is awesome. He does everything correctly, efficiently, on time, does things without being asked or told. I'm going to hire that guy over the other guy that procrastinates or, complains like, oh, this is too much. I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Well, and that comes too with like, okay, when you don't get hired, how often do you just get the Dear John letter? Thank you for applying. We're going to move forward on other applicants.
Right.
I mean, how much more useful would it be? It's like, hey, thank you for applying. We like this that you brought to the table. However, during our interview or during the hiring process, these are things that we found to be undesirable, or these are things that, like, at the end of the day, we could not hire you over. That's something that now that candidate can take and say, oh, hey, I can approve on this.
Oh, absolutely agreed. I wish they like, hey, these are your attributes that we loved and were desired for us.
Yeah.
But this is what you didn't provide. You don't have the skills or knowledge of. We'd love to see you acquire this or that, or be certified in this or that, and then come back and reapply if there's an opening.
Yeah, it's a recruitment tool. That would be incredible, because now not only are you just telling people, hey, you didn't get the job, but now you're telling them, hey, if you can do this better, you become more desirable. Maybe not just for us, but for somewhere else too.
It's like you have to sell yourself to them. Make yourself desirable. Make them want you.
Yes.
And given those, hey, do this, do that, come back if there's an opening still, and we'll hire you.
Yeah. Well, and that also then comes to that organization has to know what they want. That's because that's one thing, and this is affecting a local department right now, but is that they're not really clear on what their goal is. Whether they want part-time people, full-time people, they want volunteer. They're just kind of all over the map, and they're hiring that way, where they're hiring quickly to get people in the seat, but then they're not really doing anything to retain anyone. Yeah. They're not really keeping any high standards, but then they're wanting to be really picky and choosy with who they hire.
Right.
It's like, figure out from the company standpoint, figure out what you want from your recruits, and put that out, and then stand by that. Don't just arbitrarily put out, standards that just so you can say that you're being selective.
Right. That's low standards. There are some departments in the country that's all they can do is have low standards just to get people in, and that's got to be rough.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's kind of on that, and that kind of gets into the retention portion too. But it's like, so you take your cities like Detroit, they don't have a ton of money. They're not, and that's just the nature of it, And there's other cities in the United States that are very poor, impoverished. Cities throughout some of the Middle South, Appalachia, that kind of thing, where you're not gonna have tons of money, but then you have to start asking, okay, what else can we possibly provide? What else can we do that to keep guys here?
Yeah, you got to sell yourself to them.
Yeah.
Just like when you're in your interview, you got to sell yourself to them too. And it goes both ways. And it's not a one-way street.
I think one of the most interesting documentaries was Dennis Leary's Burn about Detroit fire. That was a fascinating documentary. Very dated now. It's dated by, was it about 10 years?
Yeah, about 10, 12 years, yeah.
At least. Very dated now. I'm sure the situation has not changed a whole heck of a lot, all things considered. But one of the things is like, the guys talk about how low their pay is and apparatus is broken and not getting repaired. But then also the guys, they love it. They love the job. They love working for the city. They wouldn't trade for it in the world.
Yeah.
Because the houses are allowed to basically, I don't want to say it's Wild West, although they describe it like that, but they're allowed to kind of set their rules like, hey, this is what we expect in our house.
Yep.
And we're going to make the absolute best of it we can internally.
Absolutely.
So the city's not doing anything for us. The state's not doing anything for us, but we're going to set our own rules and we're going to have fun the best we can. We're going to barbecue at the station when we possibly can. We're going to cook for each other when we possibly can. We're going to share as much as we can. It makes a difference.
Yeah. And that, you man, wow. Cooking for each other, barbecuing, morale. Yes. That is huge.
Yes.
And I have seen at my full-time job, morale is in the dirt.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. And then people start leaving because of that morale. It's like, okay, that's when you got to look at what is going on. What's the problem? How can we fix this? Like what we do here, we pretty much do the same thing. We hang out, cook out. We make it fun.
Yeah.
It's the morale.
Yeah, freaking cigar club that meets in the summer.
Literally.
We have yet to do so, but
it's got to soon. Plus, I got to go get some more cigars too. My stash is running low. But yeah, man, like that's huge. And morale just hits everything into this as well. Morale's low. People are going to leave. They're going to go somewhere else. We're not retaining them.
Yeah.
Like, why is the morale so bad? Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Let's fix this. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, but let's get it to how it should be.
And now you get into some of the places where it's like, and I realized this, there's some rules and order, revised codes and so on and so forth. Certain things have to be abided by. But like cooking in the station, or allowing family members to, hey, we're gonna let your family stop by and hang out for a couple hours.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, when you reach a certain time in the evening, so like 4:00, like end of business day hours, hey, that's relaxation time. You guys go and you still have to respond to calls, clearly, but give a little bit more agency to do anything else that they want to do out there. Don't make people feel like, oh no, you have to be, in your monkey suit, your dress blues or whatever, at all hours of the day, your class Bs. Give them a little opportunity. For the younger kids, for them playing video games in the evening, that's relaxing for them. And if they don't get a chance to relax and they feel like they never get a chance to wind down and enjoy hanging out with each other, they're not going to stay.
No, they're not. And in some departments that do the 48-hour shifts, if their family can come see them while they're there, that's a huge morale booster. Yeah. That's big.
That was a big point of contention. We talked about doing our doing 48s.
I remember when you were talking about that.
And the hang up was that we wanted a stipulation that the first 24 hours, fine. You want to train us, you want us to do all the stuff, that's great. The second 48 hours, leave us alone. Let us run our calls, let us do our thing, but by and large, leave us alone.
Right.
And the response we got was, what if somebody missed the training the day before? What if we have a part-timer who's picking up hours and they didn't get that training? Leave us alone. And we could not get that through their heads. That it's like, no, if you're going to be there for that long, I can't, you're going to wear us down. You're going to wear us out. You're going to break us. And then no one's going to want to stay.
Right. And then you're training like that all the time. When a big incident happens, you're going to be tired, exhausted, and you're not going to be able to perform like you usually would be able to. We just recently got back to the point where it's like, we don't train on weekends anymore, which was huge because for a while it was every single day, 10 a.m. was training time. It didn't matter. And the weekends were catch-up training time, which means it was just regular training time was all said and done. People were exhausted. People were just wore out because it was monotonous. It was the same thing over and over and over again.
you were just going through the motions, and then when you're going through the motions, you're making mistakes, and you're getting harangued over making mistakes, and you're just don't care. It's like when we're trying to explain it, it's like, look, it's not that people don't want to train and practice, but not every single day, not
Yeah.
every single moment. Like that's just you're burning us out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I get you got to train, but when is enough? Too
Mhm.
much is too much.
Yeah.
And that's a question. And some people just
Mhm.
don't see it that as being too much,
No.
but there is.
Yeah. Well, and training can be a double-edged sword for many people,
Mhm.
especially younger. Training is awesome because it's the only way that they really, especially right now, and in our current atmosphere, we're not getting tons of fires. So training is really the only way you can get good at your craft.
Right.
But it's a double-edged sword because you can very quickly go too far the other direction because when you can only fight so many fake fires
Mhm.
before
Yes.
you either want the real thing or you're like, okay, I've practiced this enough. I need a break. I want to do something else.
Yeah, and you can't, like you said, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. You got to either switch it up or just take a break. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
if I had to train every single day I went to work,
Mm.
I'd be like, I ain't doing this.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. I just did the same training 2 days ago. Why am I here doing it again?
Mhm.
Like, this is ridiculous.
Well, especially too, whenever because this is what I find so asinine about training evolutions is whenever you do a training evolution and say so you have the shift who did it already, you have somebody who's on a trade back or back
Hmm.
payback for a trade or they're there on overtime or whatnot. Hey, they've already gone through his training. Guess what? You have an extra assistant instructor who should probably still take part in some of the training, but can also take more of a, hey, I can help, guide some of these guys in what they're doing. Done this already. I can
Hmm.
be helpful
Right.
more than just treated like I'm a recruit and trainee.
Right. Absolutely. And you got to take advantage of that too. Especially it's like you said, hey, I've already done this training.
Mm-hmm.
Let me help you.
Yeah.
Gives you an extra hand
Yeah.
too. And if you have a larger group, you can split those up too.
Mm-hmm.
And, you do one portion of training, I can do the other portion of training, and then swap.
Yeah.
You know.
No, well, and that helps too because that's then also whoever is running your training, they get a break too.
Mhm.
I can tell you. So on the trail as a drill sergeant, when we're down for our CST mission in Fort Knox, there's two missions we can do. You can either do a half mission, which is typically 18 to 21 days, and it's either half of the cycle that you're down there, or you can do the full cycle. I've done several full cycles for CST, and I very much eagerly await for when that drill comes in for a second half of the cycle, who's there only part time,
Mhm.
because I finally get a break.
Right.
Because I've been go, 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 go for your first 2 weeks of their training. By the time they're hitting range week, I'm ready for a break. I need to go sleep because I've been getting up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., and going to bed at midnight almost every single night.
Mhm.
In addition to doing stuff I have to do just for my job, let alone as a drill, that's I welcome whenever somebody comes and says, "Hey, I can handle that for you." Cool,
Yeah.
go, give me a
See
break.
ya. I need a break.
And I don't understand, like, whenever instructors in the fire service don't do that. Like, they get so tight-fisted, like, "Oh, no, no, I can handle this. I can do this." Like, no, take the help when you can get it.
Yeah. And but some of those guys, those are the senior
Mhm.
guys that didn't have that when they were
Yeah.
younger, or even when they were a little older
Mhm.
too, because that's what they saw. You
No,
know.
well, I mean, I did that just the other night when our chief were doing forcible entries, like, and she comes out and says, "Hey, I'm gonna take the half your group here because we only got one door to break. I'm gonna go and we're gonna go over the grass fire truck." Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm not gonna argue with that. First of all, it makes it more manageable
Yeah.
for me running people through the door. I could take more time, not feel rushed. But
Hmm.
second of all, now everyone's actually doing something.
Yeah. And you're not standing
Yeah,
around with your hands in your pockets.
yeah. I didn't need my ego to drive and say, "Oh, hold on to that," because later that night, our one of the lieutenants made the comment like, "How did you do it? We got half the department here for a training.
Yes.
We haven't seen this many people for training in the first place." Like,
Hmm.
yeah, because it's like I'm thinking about what's going to get people here and what do they actually need to know, and I help instruct
Yeah.
them. It's I'm thinking about recruitment retention is what
Yeah.
I'm thinking
I mean,
about.
look when we did the rope rescue
Yeah.
we split into groups.
Yeah.
It's more manageable that way. And I mean, we had a large number of people that night for that too.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it's the retention.
Yeah.
And quality of trainings too.
Yes. Well, and that's where it gets into is you start thinking about the quality of what you're doing, not the quantity.
Correct.
You know, and this is something I know that affects private ambulance especially, but I mean, it affects us all, is that like we look at a bulk of what can be accomplished in private ambulance. How many calls can we run in a 24-hour day to make however much money we possibly can? Fire service is how much, like, I'm trying to think of a good quantitative thing, like how much effective PR, honestly, let's be honest, that's what we do. How much effective PR can we demonstrate in a day, whether it's running EMS fire calls or training, that the public can see and to equate to how much support? And at the end of the day, if you look at it and say, okay, we're putting out for, and I'm thinking of kind of like content creator, but let's say that you're, as a fire department, you're putting out roughly 30 hours of like time per week in that kind of PR stuff, all right? Which that equates to well over 4 hours a day in a 7-day week. And if you're only doing a 5-day week, that's over 6 hours a day. What is the quality of that training? What is the quality of that PR stuff? If you've got PR after PR after PR lined up, yeah, it's really good for the public. They're awesome. Your guys don't care.
Yeah.
When your guys hear, hey, we're going to do another touch a truck day, or we're going to do another senior citizen meetup day and whatnot, their reaction is, why? Literally, yeah. Why do you hate us?
Yeah.
And same thing as like private ambulance, when they look, it's like you do X 100 calls, you can field 100 calls per service as a private EMS per day. Well, that's great until you realize that, yeah, all your crews are grumpy and grouchy, and you're missing because you're transporting grandma for the 5th time for dialysis, but you're missing the major transport from hospital to hospital that would have actually really paid the money.
See, and that's the problem that my company runs into right now. They're doing like, oh, we're just going to take grandma to the nursing home from the hospital. Here's a trauma or a STEMI or stroke. Has to go from this freestanding to a major stroke center. Yeah. And they skip over it.
That's us.
So, and like we do a whole lot of very long distance trips.
Yes.
So, and a lot of times they're doing them back to back, some of these BLS crews. So it's like, that takes a toll on crews right there when you got to do an hour and a half transport to Columbus, drive an hour and a half back, and then drive an hour and a half back to Columbus and another hour and a half back. That's over 400 miles of driving for 2 calls. Yeah. Like, that's ridiculous. And that's a lot of reasons why some of the people at my company are leaving.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because then when you do those, so if you do 1 or 2 of those in your shift, but then you're expected to do also the 10 local transports too. I mean, not only exhausting them, but I remember this. I had a boss, my first private ambulance company I worked for. Tell Tom to stop texting everybody. Yes, we know there's not going to be anyone on the station for whatever time. We get it. Stop. Okay. Anyways, I remember we were doing transports back when I was still a basic, and we transported a patient. It was actually a second call. I think it was from a small ER to a larger trauma center is what it was. But I remember we're coming back. Ryan with the boss is, first of all, aggravating, in the first place. But what was he was pissed, not because like it took us forever, like, we almost lost the call, but because while we were gone, we got a city call that came in. And so he was fuming on the way back because he's looking, it's like, yep, so we're going to make all $80 for this transport. It could have gone by their own car, but we tied up an ALS ambulance for. We're going to make $80 off it when it's all said and done, because that's all Ohio Care at the time or whatever it was going to pay for, because he did the billings too. So he knew what the numbers were. Meanwhile, we missed a city call that would have net a couple $100 in contract money.
Yeah.
For the same thing, that then would probably also, this is terrible, but would have also netted in a second one, because I think it was an MVA or it was a high profile. It was going to go from the small ER we had in town to the main ER downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so we missed out on all that because we're busy running this call, and it's like you're taking everything you possibly can, but you're missing out on the good stuff.
100%. Like, and it's still like that for me. Like, might be a trauma transfer here. We're here. Oh, you're here for our trauma. Nope. We're here to go take grandma back to the nursing facility.
Yep.
And now this patient's waiting to go to a higher level of care because they need emergency surgery due to an MVA or a stroke.
Yeah.
Now we're prolonging. It's like and the grandma we're picking up, it's a wheelchair trip. We're not even making money off that at that time.
And it's
an ALS crew.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because we're like, why are we doing this? You have this trauma or this stroke sitting right here that I can take. Oh, you got to do this first. I'm like, this is a higher priority.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, they need to go now.
Yeah.
Or they're calling somebody else.
Yeah, which is often what happens.
It is.
And we know this is a game that nursing homes play.
Mm-hmm.
That they'll go through a list of whoever they're allowed to call for private ambulance transport. And when they can't get that, then they call the fire department. Because they're being told, well, I have, 5-hour wait, 4-hour wait, 6-hour wait. We have no one available at all today. So they just go on to whoever they can. And sometimes, especially if it's a hospital transport and that will require ALS skills, that's all billable. But now you're missing out on that because, as you said, if we're doing a wheelchair transport to a nursing home or worse, to a residence, that's really paying nothing at all.
Exactly. And I'm still running into problems today. Like, nothing's really changed since you've been in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's worse. Some days it's not as bad. It's like, we got a call. It's like, hey, why are we doing this when this trauma transfer is on the board? It's not assigned, but we're doing this wheelchair discharge.
Yeah.
They can wait. They can't.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because if your crews can see that, that tells me that you don't care about what their the use of their skills are either. Because this goes back to what we're talking about when you fill some of these kids up with dreams and hopes and whatnot. Especially when you first become an EMT, you think you're going to save the world when you come out. Especially younger ones, the ones who are right out of high school, the ones right out of college. They think they're going to save the world, and then they go work for their first private ambulance company, and it's such a rude awakening. It's almost stupid. And it's like then you wonder why they don't want to stay. It's like, because you told them that they're gonna save the world, and now all they're doing is basic transports of grandma to dialysis, grandpa to his doctor's appointment, and you feel like you're wasting your skills.
Oh, absolutely,
you are.
you are. Like, I don't mind working on a basic truck because sometimes they let us do. They actually expect us to do our job.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Hey, we know this is a stroke patient, but you also have a nurse riding with you too. So you can still do your job, but you also have a nurse that's going with you.
Well,
but that also creates some issues too, because they can't access our drug box.
No.
Know.
But then also too, it's like, as you said, basics, do your job. There's a lot of basic can't do. There's a lot of stuff. And I hate to say it as a medic, there's a lot of things that a basic can do that a medic can do also. And that's, and I mean, you get a trauma or you get a stroke. I mean, all I'm going to do as a medic, in addition to checking the blood sugar and EKG, which you can transmit to the hospital for remote interpretation, I might start an IV. Outside of that, I mean, there's not much else ALS I'm going to do. I can't give TPA en route. I can't give thrombolytics. All I'm going to do is an IV. So that could essentially have stayed a basic call.
Absolutely.
And you transport emergent to the nearest appropriate stroke facility, which is what they ultimately need.
Oh, absolutely. And was it 2 weeks ago? They gave us a call for a back pain and right hip pain, but they were chronic.
Yeah.
And we got 2 BLS crews sitting at the station. I called dispatch. Hey, you can send one of these BLS crews here. There's nothing an ALS is going to do. I mean, there's really nothing a basic crew is going to do either.
No.
And they're like, are you sure? Like, please don't question me. Yes.
Well,
We're not going to give them any payments. Well, why not? Please don't question me. I was like, they're in chronic pain. It's all the time. Nothing's new.
yeah,
Not like they fell and that now
yeah,
they really did break their hip.
yeah.
And
Well,
it's like,
well, and even so, if let's just say you get you get paged out
Mhm.
for grandma fell in the park or wherever. Okay, so aside from her blood pressure being in the toilet and being terrible, I mean, if she's more or less stable, she's in pain, but she's more or less stable, and hey, emergent transport to a surgical center,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be it. I mean, should she get an IV? Yes. Should she be ready for fluids just in case she's bleeding out from that hip? Absolutely.
Mhm.
However, that being said, if you have that basic crew available, it's still emergency call. You are still trained to a level of emergency status in the state of
Absolutely.
Ohio. But from a kind of bring it back around from a recruitment retention standpoint, you getting those calls every once in a while is what keeps you there.
Exactly.
It's what makes you feel like, okay, I'm actually doing something for the company rather than just a number who's making your money.
Yeah. And like my company, they cover a lot of sports teams.
Mhm.
You know, that definitely keeps people around
Yeah.
big time right
Yeah.
there. You know, it's like we're getting ready to pick up another professional sports team
Mhm.
here soon. That's going to keep even more people,
Yeah.
not nowhere around our area, but it's down towards central Ohio. So again, it's a retention right
Yeah.
there.
That was so. I remember when I worked for a private ambulance company. So we had a sister company down in Mansfield, and we actually got to work mid Ohio
Okay.
a couple times, the raceway there. So NASCAR, stock car racing, and whatnot. And that was a contract that they had for a little while. So I mean, there were some incentives like, oh hey, you want to stay with this company because they do some of those cool things.
Hmm.
That's pretty awesome thing.
It
It
is.
was all extra too. It wasn't even like your shift stuff. It was like, hey, we need 4 or 5 people. We'll pay you your overtime rate to go down there and do it.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, sign me up. That's
Yeah.
gonna keep me.
Oh, absolutely. Like I've done some cool stuff from drag races,
Hmm.
Indians, Browns practice, Browns games.
Hmm.
That stuff's cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's like, hey, this is the place I get to work at, and I get to sit here and watch these games for free.
Yeah. And that's a huge perk versus, well, we could have done that, but we're not gonna pay you for it. Or
Yep.
oh hey, we need people because I've heard companies who do this too. And this really grinds my gears. Is when they say, hey, we need volunteers to go do this, to go do this transport or go do this special event.
Hmm.
Well, are you gonna pay me more? Oh, we'll give you a stipend. Okay, like what do you mean a stipend? We'll give you something for food, and we'll give you like no. Are you going to pay me? Like, well, yeah, but we're all it's like they work it in, they word it in. It's like they're only gonna give you the bare minimum. It's like, and then they're confused. Like, why isn't anyone signing up? Why doesn't anyone offer to do this?
Hmm.
Because you're not giving anything.
Right.
You're asking people to take away time from their families and their lives to do extra stuff for the company and basically telling them to go pound salt at the end.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You don't care about that.
Yeah. And you don't keep people that way at all.
No.
Because I'm not going to take time out of my time, my family's time to go do something for free.
Yeah.
You're going to pay me for my time and pay me for taking me away from my family.
Well, it's the same thing of like doing training stuff too. And I realize there has to be, you got to put some formal limitations on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the way our department does it is we have a list that you're on. That's a recycling, our recurring list every 3 years. And if it's your year, it's your priority year. So pretty much everything will be covered for you up to, I think it's like 40 or 48 hours,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite a bit when it's all said and done. And so they'll cover your hours, they'll handle your shift trays, they'll everything. Like that's pretty awesome thing. I know of other organizations, other departments who it's like, hey, I want to go do this training. Okay, cool. Well, you can take time off, but you need to find shift trades for it. And it's like, well, hey, can I use department vehicle or can I, can department help pay for it? Oh man, you're asking a lot here. We want you to have the training. That'd be awesome. But if you could go and get it yourself, that'd be even better.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you wonder then why. It's like here. I love here. Like as long as it's relatively feasible, something that we can use,
Mhm.
you can basically do whatever
Oh,
training you want,
absolutely.
and the department will pay for it because as long as it's feasible, you'll potentially use it here. Yeah, makes
Mhm.
you more usable here, makes you more marketable.
Oh, absolutely it does. And like I know a lot of guys I work with at my full-time job, some of them their departments paid for them to go be drone pilots.
Yeah.
And it's like that's getting be bigger and bigger these
Mm-hmm.
days now. Like it's a useful tool,
Yeah.
very useful, especially when you're finding
Yeah.
missing people. And they got the infrared cameras,
Mm-hmm.
the thermals. It's like now if because I thought about it, I'm like, I don't want to take time away from work, but I think it would be cool asset to have in my back pocket. But then you got to think about who's going to buy the drone.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, and then I also know a lot of departments and companies, excuse me, will look at it and say, well, what if they leave us in? Okay, there's always that risk.
Yeah.
There always is. But here's the thing, if you are actually investing in those people, the chances of them totally taking advantage of you all the time is pretty low when
Oh,
it
yeah.
falls in them. You always have somebody who will take
Yeah.
advantage of the system. And that's just how it is. You can't stop the system because one or two people ruin it. But realize, like, hey, if once that person, especially the young guy, realizes that, oh, hey, they're gonna send me for my rope stuff, and then they'll send me to dive, and then they'll send me to hazmat. I get to do some cool stuff too in addition to this,
Yeah.
and they're gonna pay for it.
Heck yeah.
Okay, I'll stay here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay here as long as it does it. But I've noticed like when the people leave like that is whenever you go and say, hey, I want to go do this training, and all of a sudden the money gets stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no real rhyme or reason for it. It just said, oh, yeah, hey, so, yeah, we can't do that anymore. In fact, we're not going to do that anymore at all. And then suddenly it's like, so you're not going to invest in me? You're one of your employees anymore?
Right.
Okay, cool. I'll go somewhere who will.
You know, and that's another big thing. Investing in your employees is going to retain them to be there too.
Yeah.
Like you have to invest money in your people, not just, okay, you got this. All right, you're hired. Hey, I want to go get certified to do this. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nope. You got to invest in them.
Well, it goes beyond just like training, but like, and I'm not saying you have to have the latest, greatest, fanciest, but you know, every once in a while, upgrade some of their equipment. You know, if you look and you see, hey, you've got guys who are in some torn fire gear, stained fire gear, and you know you've had that gear for 10 or 12 years, you might still get recertified through the factory and say it's still good per NFPA. But might be thinking like, you know what? Maybe we should look to replace some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you're looking at the, you know, some of the equipment that's been broken multiple times. Like we had this with a K-12 here for the longest time.
Yes.
It's like, and now we have the electric K-12, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's like you keep on breaking equipment. Guys get frustrated over that, and then that's a real easy way they look at a department or company and say, "Oh, you don't care because we're frustrated over this, and it never gets fixed." And it's like just take the time out and say, "Okay, hey, can we afford to fix some of these things?
Oh,
Can
yeah.
a new coat of paint every 5 or 7 years to a station does wonders for morale."
Oh, absolutely. Like the last year, I begged and begged and begged to get new paint for the floor of the station because all they did was just put the garage floor paint down, but they didn't epoxy seal it, so it looks like garbage now. You know, so I was like, listen, I got like 6 different quotes, different prices, and different brands, and they finally said, "Here you go." You know, I'm like, cool, because everybody, it looks disgusting in my opinion. My next step now is to get paint for the walls.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's my project. It keeps me busy. And people are going to be like, they're like, wow, this looks nice when it's all said and done. And it brings up morale a little bit too, you know?
Well, and we had the same thing at my station where like, so some of us have over time, it's actually funny because our assistant chief asked us one day, it's like, well, where'd you guys get these desks and chairs? Because all the bedrooms now have a desk, like your work desk. We had enough chairs for the office and them until somebody broke a couple of them. So, but it's like those are department chairs. Where'd you guys get these? Like, department members have bought them. You come and tell us, oh, we need you guys to buy in. We need you guys. You don't realize we have been a lot. we've probably got a good $1,000 or so in furniture and things that we've bought for that station, including the TV that we didn't go to a union or association for. We bought out of pocket over was a Black Friday deal,
Mm-hmm.
and we all pitched in for it. We have done these things, and you don't realize we have. But doing little things and saying, "Oh, hey, like the chairs we're singing right now, they're stained, they're ratty, they're broken." New office chairs, I realize they're not cheap, but they're not overly expensive. Hey, let's go get,
But we also spend a lot of time in them too.
Yeah. So go order some new office chairs that look a little nicer, that don't creak and rattle every single time you lean back. Yeah, and they actually roll.
Actually, this one ain't too bad. I think it's that one that's really bad.
This one won't lock anymore. But you do that, and it seems insignificant, but
it's little things.
Yeah, but people notice that because they're like, oh, hey, I got new paint every once in a while. I'm not looking at the same gray walls every single shift day.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, they came in and you actually came in and handled the bug problem we have. Okay.
Yeah.
It's little things like that.
Absolutely it is. And like for me, like my full-time job, like they try. I'll give them that. They try to fix things. But when it's something that's gonna break in the next 3, 4, or 6 months, I'm like, how about you guys buy something a little more expensive, more higher quality, it's gonna last longer.
And maybe even comes with a warranty too.
Yeah. Like we get 50-gallon drums of windshield washer fluid. And they buy cheap little hand pumps from Harbor Freight. Yeah. You and I both like Harbor Freight.
Yes.
But there's some things that just don't last long.
No.
There was an issue with the pump. Quit working. It was done. Like it's shot. It's so rusted.
Yeah.
And they told me, oh, just have Jay put a hose in there and siphon it out. What?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. What I did, I went to Harbor Freight. I bought a really nice cast iron stainless steel pump. It's 50 some bucks, but I know it's gonna last because it's higher quality.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh wow, you bowed out with your own money and you didn't ask for it, money to be paid back. Yeah. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I could care less because I know it's gonna last.
Yeah.
So
no, that doesn't mean you want to do that every single time, but it does say. But it's funny because you see this like as you bring up such a not monotonous ubiquitous thing as washing trucks, and if you go out to wash the trucks and you have the soap dispenser doesn't work well and you have to fight with it every single time, or you have to get the soap from a lock and key every single time, or the scrub brushes you're using are the same ones you use to wash your fire hose and they're all ratty and disgusting and whatnot, or to find buckets you have to like search high and low to find a bucket. You think somebody's gonna actually go and wash the truck with that much effort? Nope. No. But you take a couple $100, like, hey, we're gonna set up an actual wash station, and we're gonna make it a point to order detergent every couple months or every so often and whatnot, and keep up on it. All of a sudden, stuff starts getting done.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a little bit more user friendly. People don't have to strain and stress to get it.
Yeah.
I promise you. For you guys, if you had left the windshield washer fluid that way, where you had to siphon it out yourself, to get those windshield washer fluid reservoirs would be bare. They would be empty and have cobwebs inside them because no one's gonna go to all that effort to refill windshield washer fluid, even if it's needed.
And the fact they wanted me to do it, like, because he's the hillbilly out there. I'm still not doing that.
No, just put the money in and fix it the way it should be.
And so like after I bought that pump, 2 or 3 weeks later, they sent down a cheap little plastic squeeze pump. Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what you buy us.
Yeah.
Like I had a review with them, and I'll tell you what, I let him have it. I'm like, you guys got to start doing something. You got to spend money.
Yeah.
Like I know you just spent millions of dollars the last year, but you got to spend it on us and not just buildings.
No. Well, and the thing is that the whole thing is an investment. Like you're spending millions of dollars on the investment of your company, capital into your company.
But what about your people?
Well, yeah, but that goes into your capital of your company. That's what you spend the capital of your company on is, hey, making sure that people actually want to be here, and making sure people actually want to stay here, making sure the equipment actually runs and works the way it should. because like our grass fire truck is honestly a great example of this. That thing has not always worked right or worked well, and we proved that the other night too at training.
Oh, and today.
Oh, and today. Oh, of course we did.
Yeah.
Why not? But no, like how many people like so if that thing is a pain in the ass to go and start and go and do the check on, how many people are going to do that like regularly, even if they're supposed to? I mean, this is where like when stuff's broken and it's broken, this is where it starts getting the cursory goes from like, okay, well, I'm trying to get started to I'll kind of look at it to I'll give it a glance to, yep, pencil whip it, yep, it's there.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. And then when the bosses come down, it's like, well, why is no one checking this? Why is it not being? It's like because it's been broken for so long. First of all, everyone just assumed has always been broken.
Yeah.
And second of all, no one, we've put on check sheets before. It did not start. It did not run. No one did anything about it. This is how you say you want things communicated.
Yeah.
And then no one did anything about it. Well, yeah, of course no one. Of course it's just kind of end up that way.
Exactly.
So you're not going to put the time. But then whenever people leave because of that, whenever you can't keep people because of that, and they cite like, look, we just don't think you care.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, those are things that people see that you don't care about the conditions at all. It's like when we go into a fire and our gear is not up to the task, or we're going in with a pump that works partially, or we're going in with equipment that's not necessarily meant for that. Like people can see that. At first, it's novel to be like, yeah, we're the cowboys, we can make it work until something happens, and then one day you're like, this is dangerous. Like this, I don't want to do this anymore here. If you're not going to care enough about my life to keep me alive, or do your best to keep me alive. So, no, it's it is a two-way street, because I can hear somebody from a chief grade officer position or administrative position yelling at us, but money, you don't realize how much that costs. No, I realize shit costs money.
Yeah.
Anyone who owns a house knows that shit costs money, because when you start looking at the roof that needs to be repaired, and it's going to be a $5,000 to $8,000 alone. You're looking at the siding that's got to be several $1,000s. You're replacing light bulbs, you're replacing light fixtures, and time and effort and money. And I get it. Yeah. Same thing at home. We go through and we decide, what do we need to do now versus what can we do later? But at the same time too, it also, like, I can either hate living in my house because things break and things look old and ratty, or I can take the time, fix it, and then look back and say, you know what, my 1,000 square foot little house, that's actually a pretty nice house, all things considered. But it's all in what do I do to take care of it? What do I do for it to look better for me?
Absolutely. I mean, you hit it pretty good right there. I mean, the same thing with cars too. You can have a 20-some-year-old car. How you take care of it, what you put into it. You have a business, or you're running an apartment. What do you put into it to take care of it?
Yeah. Well, especially whenever, and I feel like this gets into like the governmental aspect, but especially government entities, and I'm not going to go into the whole bit of like privately owned departments or anything like that. But your government entities, especially when you're using other people's monies through tax dollars, levy funds, or whatever, donations, first of all, you should strive to take a little bit better care and strive to provide a better service, because those people are the ones that are going to be using it for. But also, too, I mean, that's where you should actually like say, okay, we want to use these funds the best we possibly can. Yeah, should you put some away for a rainy day? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also, too, look and say, hey, so we just bought a new truck. Well, we know in 25 years, we're going to need to buy another new truck. So, or, hey, we know this truck is next on the block. Let's start putting money away, or let's start speccing that out now so that we can take care of that now. Because maybe this would be a good landing spot, and maybe it'll be a good continuation spot. One place where I see, I shouldn't say always. My wife's always about me saying always and always, not always, because always and never and always happen. Anyways, one thing that drives me nuts is whenever a new vehicle is to be spec'd out. Ambulance, fire truck, utility truck, doesn't matter. And so we're gonna say tentatively we're gonna look to purchase in May of 2025. We don't start the actual like planning process until like July of 2024. And we get a committee together and we're like, oh, okay, we like this, 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 and this, and this, and this. And it's like, so wait. You're making a decision on something that is going to last us, in theory, for a fire truck, next 20 to 30 years, and ambulance, next 12 to 15. You're making that decision over a half dozen hour-long conversations in 6 months. And yet you knew that 10 to 12 years from the point you buy this ambulance or this truck, you're going to be buying another one. Like that to me, that just shows you don't care, you don't have the foresight to care about what goes in, because you're making a rush decision on something that's going to last, that we're going to be stuck with, honestly, for a very long time.
Yep.
Which is what's happened with our Rosenbauer out there. A poor decision was made, a quick decision was made, a very, and we're stuck with it. And we're set to be stuck with it, especially with how long it takes to build new apparatus these days. We're set to be stuck with it for another 5 to 7 years.
Yep.
And that thing has a lot of problems to it.
Oh, it does. Mm-hmm.
So
I can't disagree with that.
And like whenever I look at that and say, do you really care what happens? Do you really care? Like, you come and say we want to do things for the department. Do you really care if you're just whatever gets us to shut up for 5 minutes to and I can't say you do.
Right. I agree with that 100%.
All right, I know that was a little bit of a tangent there, but
hey, sometimes you just gotta get it out.
The entire podcast is a bit of a tangent, I guess, but
it's all right.
So you ready to go see your Indians win?
I hope they win. They better win.
Who are they playing tonight?
Twins.
Yeah.
Stellar Dog Night too.
Oh, so no wonder you guys are going.
Yeah. Free alcohol drinks.
Ooh. What?
We're in the new pendants section of the stadium.
Oh man.
It's like it's only reserved for large groups only. That's it. So it's like a private section.
Okay.
So yeah. Stellar Dog Night, free t-shirts for the first 10,000, fireworks after.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't get rained out.
Listen, it's supposed to storm again at like 6 o'clock, so.
Well, you only got about 2 hours. 2 hours left, because if it doesn't stop raining by like 6:30,
so
you'll be enjoying those sad, soggy hot dogs.
If I get there and they can't postpone it, I'm gonna be because it'll be a day that I'm not gonna be able to go when they play again. That's what will happen if that's the situation, but I hope not.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always laughed. I love baseball, but I hate how they are so weather conscious. Mm-hmm. And I know that it changes the trajectory and how the ball reacts with the infield, and I know. I get that, but you know what? That happens with everything else too. What about whenever NFL used to play in the snow and they had to shovel snow off of their end zone lines?
Oh yeah,
whatnot.
like look at Buffalo.
Hey, that's part of the game.
Like I play soccer, play in the pouring rain, played in the snow.
Yeah,
but yeah, like you said, baseball. Like I didn't know until a couple years ago, humidity and rain changes the baseball significantly. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's huge. It's actually partially why the MLB will not go to aluminum bats, because they would have to literally first of all they would have to change the fundamental design of all the ballparks, because dingers would be a dime a dozen. But second of all of the records that were that have been set would have to be either asterisked or they would have to be scrapped, because they
destroy them.
Yeah, there would be no contest at all. And so that's part of the reason why MLB sticks with wooden bats over aluminum. And
honestly, I like the sound of a wooden bat way better anyways.
Yes.
And hearing that crack when it breaks, that just makes it right there.
Yes. But also at the same time too, then you look at like what is the human capable of? I'd love to see MLB play on a larger, like a 600-foot field versus that, which I mean, that would be insane because I mean, already
Yeah.
300 feet that's a huge spot for, was it? Is it 11 players in the outfield?
See, yeah, 3, 4, yeah,
11. So that would be a stupidly large amount of space. Which,
9.
I mean,
Sorry, 9.
9.
Yeah.
Still, that yeah, but that would be really fascinating to see that. But I mean, you'd have to fundamentally change everything. Your bases would no longer be 90 feet apart. They'd have to be like 120, 140 feet apart.
Yeah,
So
or heck, you're even extending stadiums.
yeah, like that
Because some of
would,
these guys are hitting home runs over 400 foot.
yeah. What's the longest distance that a ballpark is? Like 419 feet, 430 feet.
Oh, let's see what Google says, because I don't even know that answer. But that's interesting.
Oh well, at this point we're just kind of riffing just to riff. So now let's see here. We might as well figure out what we're gonna do for our next topic.
Yeah, let's
because
see.
this is the planning portion. All right, and the winner is, click the spin. One more click. Yep. Staying fit for the job or not?
All right.
Okay, that's gonna be an interesting one. So now, if you've stayed long enough to actually listen to this last part here, we'll be back. It might be a couple weeks at this point because I'm disappearing for a couple weeks here, and we've talked about doing remote. But we'll figure that out at a different time here. But staying fit for the job or not, physical fitness and fire service. That's, depending on who you ask, that's a huge point of contention.
Yes.
Whether it's important or it doesn't matter. So,
Yep, exactly.
but on that note, though, I think it's time for us to close this out. We've spent the last about 5-6 minutes here riffing and just talking about nonsense. So,
By the way, it's 416 feet.
416 feet is
Colorado Rockies.
that's the longest.
Yep.
416 feet. So, well, there's your useless fact for the day. For your sports nuts, you already knew. For the rest of us, that's useless fact. 416 feet is the longest home run distance for Colorado Rockies.
Oh no, that's just for the infield.
Yeah, the longest
From plate to
two fence distance. Yes. So, on that note, I've been Tim,
I'm Jeremiah.
and this has been Coffee Table edition of Conflict of Leadership. Join us next time where we talk about physical fitness and the fire service.